Hi everybody, this is Lathiri again for part 2 of your ELVUI. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you actually how to go about editing your ELVUI. So you're going to go into your chat, you're going to do /ELVUI, which will bring up your ELVUI settings. So we're going to actually start with the general tab. Generally here, what you can do is you can change the announce and interrupt so it can say party or say. So if you have like an interrupt that you're doing, you can actually show them. I usually leave it at none because that does get annoying in some things. Also, you can do auto repair. So you can either choose the guild to pay for your auto repairs or you can choose the player. If your guild offers you to do the repair, then put it on the guild. If not, you can just leave it at none as well. Okay. Also, you can change the map alpha while moving, so you can change what it would look like. Your chat bubbles, you can either disable, remove the backdrop, or have a skin backdrop. I leave usually this stuff all on default. Now you have your choice of whether you want what you want to do here. So you can accept invites, you can have that checked and people can invite you to groups, guilds, or whatever. I leave that unchecked because I like to have the opportunity to decide whether I want to join somebody's group. Next one is the vendor's grays. I checked that actually, so that way there, all my grays are actually vendored and I don't have to worry about that. Okay. Auto greed or DE. So you can choose that if you're in a low level instance, for example, and you can do greed, you just auto greed or DE. I usually leave that off because when I'm in dungeons, I'm usually generally leveling. Loot, it will show you what loot you have. Loot roll, it'll help you bring up the loot roll menu. Auto scale is when you can auto scale your UI. Hide error text. I always keep that unchecked because if I have an error text and it will come up on the top of the screen while you're in combat, and that gets a little annoying a lot fast. Log taints, you can send add-on action blocked errors to the Lua error frame. That's less important. In most cases it will affect your game performance, but so you don't really need to have that checked either. Tiny map, so you don't scale the large map to block out the sides of the screen. The bottom panel is the display a panel across the bottom of the screen. This is for cosmetic only. You can take it off and it actually does look a lot better, or you can leave it on. It's completely up to you. Top panel, the same thing as the bottom. You can have it on so that way there you can see actually your bars a little bit better. So I'm going to leave the top panel on. The next window is your action bars. So I enable my action bars and my keybind text. So that way there, everything is working. So this displays the bind names on the action button. So if I forget, if I put G for my mount and I forget I do that, then I go ahead and look down. Oh yeah, it's G. Or F for fishing. Okay. Key down is action button key binds will respond on key down rather than on key up. So when you push the key down, it responds. It won't respond when the key is up. Always show the action bars, so it shows you, check this option to display extra action bars. To pick up the action key, I leave it on the shift key because I rarely use the shift key. Of course, red I have for out of range and blue is out of power. You can also change your fonts on here. The default font is the ELVUI pixel, and actually it doesn't look that bad if you're like into Minecraft or something similar. It shows it as a pixel instead of as a normal. But you can do a drop down and you can change it to whatever they have listed here. Font size, you can change your font size from anywhere between 6 and 22. So you can have small font or you can have large font. I generally leave it at 10 as the 10 is actually a better suited font. And then font outline. You can have an outline, you can have no outline. It's completely, totally up to you. I usually leave it on the monochromatic outline. So that way there, it's just generic all through. Now, in order for the action bars, you do see the plus. So you're going to actually hit the minus sign. and you can go through the bars. So the micro bar is actually that little bar that you see, and I just put it on my screen. I always enable this, and it shows you your character, your spell book, your talents, your achievements, and all that stuff. And everything else in here as well. Okay. You can have one button per row, so you can have it going elongated. You can have it 12. You can set it any way you want. Alpha is to change the alpha level of the frame, so you can have it like totally in the background, or you can totally have it dominant. It's completely up to you. Mouse over the frame is not shown unless you mouse over the frame. So if you go and you mouse over it, it's there. And it's an actually good idea if you have a smaller screen and you have too much clutter. Because I have a 19 by 20 screen, I don't need to worry about having it on my screen, so I do leave that unchecked. Next bar is your bar number 1. So basically your bar number 1 is your first bar, obviously. You can enable it, you can disable it. It's completely up to you if you use these bars. The anchor point is the bottom left, but you can change that to bottom right. You can change it to top left. You can change it to top right. So you can change it in any direction that you wish. But I generally leave them on bottom left. You can have a backdrop so the buttons look a little more raised. Or you can again do the mouse over. If you have a smaller screen, I do highly recommend it, but you don't need to do that. To have the buttons, you can also do the same thing. You can have the buttons 1 button or 12 buttons. Okay, depending on how many buttons you want on your first bar. The buttons per row is if you want 1 button per row, again it'll elongate it, or 12 buttons per row. Your button size, again, you can just you can do it really small or you can do it really big. It's completely up to you. I'm just going to put it at 29. Button spacing, so that's the spacing between the buttons, so you can have it really spaced out or you can have it not spaced out. I generally leave that at 1. Height multiplier, again, you can change the size, how high it is or how low it is. I generally leave it on the default of 1. Same with the width multiplier. And the alpha, again, you can have it so different for the alpha. This here, the action page, I actually would leave that alone. Do not touch this code unless you know a lot about coding. And then visibility state, I'd leave that alone as well. And then you can go through all the bars like that. I usually enable and I adjust my bars. Bar 3, you'll notice that it does have only 6 buttons per row. But what I do is I generally put 12 and 12 because I want all access to my bars. Again here, bar 4, I usually leave bar 4 alone, so I usually put that way. Again, bar 5, I do the same thing. Bar 6, I enable bar 6 because I'd like to use bar 6. Pet bar, because I'm a rogue, I don't need the pet bar, so I disable the pet bar. But if you're a hunter, definitely keep it enabled, and you can generally put it anywhere you like. And the same with the stance bar. I have it enabled because I do have different stances with a lot of my other tunes, and I can show you that on a later date. So this is the first half of your bars. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just show you these ones right here, and then after I'm going to do another tutorial and show you some more. Thank you very much for hanging out with me, and hope you enjoyed this video. Please share it and hit like. Thank you.